Ethan Ward walked through the crowded corridors of Station Calith 9, his boots clicking softly against the metal floor. The station was alive with activity, as always. Ships from dozens of species docked and departed, their crews rushing about with orders, packages, and devices that Ethan could barely understand. Humans were still a new sight on many stations, and most aliens viewed them with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Ethan, like many humans, preferred to stay quiet and keep his head down, work, survive, and avoid trouble. That had always been his simple rule. He carried a stack of shipping manifests in one hand and a small datapad in the other, carefully checking the contents of each container as he walked. His supervisor, a tall draconian with scaly green skin and piercing orange eyes, had warned him again just yesterday to stick to your sector, human, and don't interfere with others. Ethan knew the warning was serious. On Calith 9, rules were strict, and mistakes could cost more than a paycheck. They could cost your life. Despite this, he couldn't ignore what he saw next. A soft sound reached him, almost drowned by the constant hum of machinery and chatter. A cry, weak and fragile, yet unmistakable. Ethan turned and noticed a small figure struggling to stand. It was an elderly alien woman, an Aelari, her shimmering blue and purple skin flickering under the station lights. She had a curved walking staff, but she had stumbled and fallen, sliding awkwardly across the floor. People around her were moving quickly, avoiding her as though she were invisible. Some glanced briefly but stepped aside, pretending not to notice. Ethan's heart tightened. He glanced down at the datapad in his hand, then back at the old woman. His supervisor's words echoed in his mind. Don't interfere. But something inside him refused to obey. Something far older than fear or rules. Without thinking, Ethan dropped the datapad and ran toward her. The staff she had used lay a few feet away, and her hands shook as she tried to push herself up. He knelt beside her, lifting her gently by her shoulders. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The old woman's eyes widened in surprise. They were deep violet, full of a wisdom and age that made Ethan feel small. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it, unsure. "Thank you," she finally whispered. No one has helped me in cycles." Ethan helped her to her feet, steadying her with his own body. She was frail but not weak. There was a dignity about her that made it clear she had once commanded respect. He guided her slowly to a nearby medical pod, where she could sit safely while a medical droid scanned her for injuries. As he waited, Ethan noticed the small details of the station. The Aelari woman's presence had already drawn some curious glances, though no one approached to help. Some humans might have thought he was foolish. Some aliens might have thought he was interfering, but Ethan didn't care. He only knew one thing: she needed help, and he would give it. The medical droid whirred and beeped, examining her carefully. The woman's breathing slowed as relief spread across her face. "You are unusual," she said softly. "Most humans are reckless. Most beings do not stop." Ethan shrugged. "I guess I don't like to see people fall." She smiled faintly, a gesture that somehow made her seem even older and wiser. Ethan noticed a small emblem on her robe, a delicate symbol he didn't recognize. There was something about her, something different from any other alien he had ever seen. "Your kindness, it will not go unnoticed," she said. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried a weight that made Ethan's chest tighten. He didn't think much of it at the time. He was still worried about his job. He knew he had left his assigned sector without permission. He knew that would not sit well with the Draconian supervisor. He knew this act of kindness could cost him everything, and it did. By the end of his shift, Ethan was called into the supervisor's office. The Draconian's orange eyes blazed with anger. "Ward," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Do you realize the consequences of your actions today? You left your assigned sector. You delayed shipments. You ignored explicit instructions. This is not minor, human. You are fired." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Fired?" he repeated, as if hearing the word aloud would make it less real. "Yes. Pack your things. Leave immediately." There was no argument, no appeal. Ethan left the office, holding his belongings in a small, worn bag. As he walked through the corridors of the station, he realized that for the first time in his life, he had nothing. No job, no savings, no future. He wandered toward the lower docks, a place where humans sometimes gathered when they had nowhere else to go. The station was loud, chaotic, and uncaring. Ships docked with screeching sounds, alien voices shouted over one another, and the hum of engines vibrated through the floors. Ethan's mind replayed the events of the day. He had helped someone, and now he had nothing. He sat on a crate, trying to make sense of what had happened, when a group of armored guards appeared. Panic surged through him. He had no reason to be noticed. He wasn't in trouble, was he? To his surprise, the guards did not raise weapons or question him. They bowed slightly and gestured for him to follow. Confused, Ethan walked with them through corridors he had never seen, up levels he had never imagined. Finally, they stopped at a door and opened it for him. Inside stood the Alari woman he had helped, the one who had stumbled in the corridor. But she looked completely different now. Her robes were more elaborate, her presence commanding. She held a staff that gleamed with energy, and her eyes held a light that seemed to reach deep into Ethan's soul. "Ethan Ward," she said, her voice calm but strong. "You helped me when no one else would. That courage and kindness, it matters." Ethan stared at her, stunned. You're the old lady I helped?" he asked, unsure if he should bow, step back, or just stay frozen in place. "I am High Matriarch Saralith," she said, her eyes scanning him carefully. "And because of your actions, I have need of your skills, your instincts, and your heart." Ethan's mind whirled. The High Matriarch, leader of the Alari sector, one of the most respected figures in the galaxy. And she remembered him? "You have been fired," she said softly, almost as if she had been reading his thoughts. "And yet, you are not defeated. That is why I chose to find you. There is work you can do. Work no one else can. But first, there is a threat." She moved to a display screen, projecting a map of the outer sectors. Red symbols marked the approach of a pirate fleet, dangerous and cunning. The station was at risk, and the Council had no idea the fleet was even coming. Ethan's heart raced. He had no experience with battles, strategies, or command. He was just a human who had tried to help someone fall. But the matriarch looked at him with trust, as if she knew something he didn't. "Humans have instincts most species ignore," she said. "I believe you may have a part to play, Ethan Ward. Fate has brought you here, and I do not make mistakes." For the first time in his life, Ethan felt that the universe was larger than his fears, that his small acts of kindness might ripple far beyond what he had ever imagined. The station hummed with danger outside, and inside, a human who had been fired for doing the right thing realized that his life had changed forever. He did not yet know how or what he would face next, but he knew one thing. Helping someone had not been a mistake. It had been the first step toward a destiny he could never have dreamed of. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the High Matriarch smiled, knowing that the human she had found was the one she could trust to stand when others faltered. Ethan took a deep breath, his fear mixing with excitement. He was about to step into a world far beyond shipping manifests and cargo crates, a world where the choices of one small human could shape the fate of many. For the first time in days, Ethan felt alive. Ethan followed the guards through corridors he had never seen before. Each step echoed in the quiet of the upper levels of Station Calith 9, far above the chaos of the busy trade docks. The further they walked, the more he realized this place was unlike any station he had known. The walls gleamed with smooth, polished metals, and soft lights traced the edges of hallways in colors that seemed almost alive. Everything felt purposeful and precise. Finally, they stopped before a grand doorway adorned with intricate symbols he did not recognize. One of the guards bowed and gestured for him to enter. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped inside. The room was vast, and at its center stood the High Matriarch Seralith. Her robes shimmered, and her staff pulsed with a soft blue light. Around her were dozens of individuals, each from different species, each looking at him with curiosity, some with doubt. He realized immediately that these were not ordinary workers. They were strategists, scientists, and warriors. Experts who had spent decades, if not lifetimes, serving the matriarch. Ethan swallowed hard. He was just a human, recently fired for helping an old lady, now standing in a room full of the galaxy's most capable beings. The matriarch looked directly at him. "Ethan Ward, do not be intimidated. Your task is simple. Observe, think, and act when necessary. The fleet approaching our sector is skilled, dangerous, and relentless. Many here may underestimate you because of your species, but that will be our advantage." He nodded, unsure of what to say. The enormity of the situation hit him. This was no longer about cargo or rules. This was about survival. As the council discussed strategies, Ethan listened carefully. The outer sectors were buzzing with alarms, and the pirate fleet was approaching faster than predicted. Alien ships were preparing defenses, but hesitation and indecision slowed their response. He could feel the tension thickening, and he remembered his human training. Small drills and survival exercises from his time on Earth, long forgotten, but now resurfacing. Ethan finally spoke. "The station has unused cargo tethers in the outer bays," he said cautiously. "If we could deploy them strategically, we might create a moving shield grid that can deflect attacks and slow the fleet down. It won't destroy them, but it can protect the station while the Council organizes a counterattack." A Draconian commander laughed, his sharp teeth glinting. "A human suggests saving us with cargo ropes? Do you even understand the scale of the threat?" The matriarch raised her hand. "Listen, the human may be small in size, but his perspective may be exactly what we need. Try his idea." Skeptical murmurs spread across the room, but the matriarch's authority was absolute. Orders were given, and Ethan was guided to a control console overlooking the outer bays. Using the station's systems, he coordinated the repositioning of the massive tethers, giving directions to automated drones and ship crews. The pirate fleet arrived within hours. Red lights flashed across the control screens, showing ships advancing rapidly. Alarms blared. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest, but he focused on the tether grid. Each cable moved like a giant web, forming a protective layer that shimmered under the station's lights. The first wave of pirate attacks hit. Plasma beams collided with the tether grid, ricocheting harmlessly into space. The fleet tried to maneuver around the obstacles, but every movement was anticipated by Ethan's calculations. The station held. A cheer erupted among the council members, though some still seemed surprised that a human's idea had worked. Ethan allowed himself a brief smile, but there was no time to celebrate. He noticed a signal flickering on a secondary monitor, an encrypted transmission moving between ships and the station itself. Someone inside was helping the pirates. He immediately reported it to the matriarch. "There's a traitor," he said. "Someone within the station is coordinating with the pirates. They've found a weak point." The room went silent. Even seasoned warriors looked alarmed. The matriarch's eyes narrowed. "Do you know who it is?" Ethan shook his head. "Not yet, but I can track it. Give me access to the internal comm networks and I can find the source." Minutes felt like hours as Ethan worked. He moved through the consoles, checking signals, tracing transmissions, and analyzing patterns. His human instincts, attention to small details, patience, and unconventional thinking gave him an advantage. Finally, he pinpointed the culprit, a high-ranking council official, a Varkon, who had coveted the matriarch's position for years. The Varkon had secretly been supplying information to the pirates in hopes of weakening the station's defenses. Ethan alerted the matriarch immediately. "We need to act fast. The traitor is planning something inside the station." The matriarch nodded. "Go. Stop him. I trust you." Without hesitation, Ethan moved into the maintenance corridors, using narrow tunnels and service lifts to avoid detection. His small human frame allowed him to move where larger aliens could not. Every step was tense. Alarms sounded faintly in the distance, and the station shook with distant impacts from the pirate fleet. He found the Varkon attempting to override security doors in the matriarch's chamber. Ethan acted instinctively, using a control panel to seal exits and trap the traitor temporarily. The Varkon turned, claws raised, eyes blazing. Ethan's heart raced, but he didn't flinch. He remembered why he was here, not for himself, but to protect the matriarch and the station. The Varkon lunged, but Ethan sidestepped, using his smaller size to his advantage. In the chaos, he activated emergency restraints that locked the traitor in place. Alarms echoed as the station's security teams arrived to detain the Varkon. Ethan exhaled slowly. He had done it. He had stopped the internal threat. But before he could celebrate, another alarm sounded. The pirates had breached the inner bay. Small boarding craft were moving toward the matriarch's chamber. Without hesitation, Ethan ran ahead. He knew the matriarch would be the primary target. He arrived just as a group of armed pirates tried to force entry. Ethan stepped in front of her, raising his arms. His body was small compared to the intruders, but he stood firm, eyes unwavering. The pirates hesitated. They had expected fear, panic, or surrender. Instead, they saw a human protecting the matriarch with courage that they had not anticipated. That hesitation gave time for the station's defense teams to arrive, driving the pirates back and securing the chamber. When the dust settled, Ethan was exhausted, but alive. The matriarch looked at him with pride. "You have done what few would dare. You have saved this station and perhaps many lives beyond it. Courage is not measured by size, but by heart. Today, you have shown greatness." For the first time in his life, Ethan felt recognized, not for what he could carry or what tasks he could perform, but for who he was. A human, kind, brave, stubborn, and willing to act when others would not. The matriarch addressed the council. "Ethan Ward is no longer a simple worker. From this day forward, he shall be guardian of the Aelari matriarchy. No human has ever held this title. Let it be known that courage, integrity, and kindness transcend species." The council members murmured, some in surprise, some in awe. Ethan felt a strange mix of disbelief and pride. A human, just fired for helping an old lady, had now become a protector of one of the most powerful alien sects in the galaxy. Later, as the station quieted and repairs began, the matriarch walked beside Ethan. Her presence was commanding, but her voice was gentle. "Humans are small in stature," she said. "But your hearts, they move galaxies. Never forget that." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of his new responsibility, but also the strength that came from knowing he had done the right thing. His life had changed in a single day, from a simple worker fired for kindness to a guardian entrusted with the safety of an entire station. And as he looked out across the stars from the observation deck, Ethan realized that sometimes the smallest acts could lead to the greatest destinies. Fate had tested him, and through courage and compassion, he had risen beyond what anyone had imagined. For the first time in his life, he was exactly where he was meant to be.